Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again in person at Shea's house is Shea Dixon. Shea, how are you doing?
We're not dressed the same this time.
No, very different attire.
But it sounds the same, which is good.
Yes. Shout out the microphone once again. As same thing as last time. The internet at my place is still getting fixed, so drove over here.
Internet's popping here. I got extenders.
The 5-foot monitor is still in place here, looking left to right the whole way to get everything. But it is the Mailbag podcast today. We got done with Brian Kelly he had his press conference at 12. I rolled in there at 11:59 right before him, and
Now it was way early.
It wasn't the most. I don't know. It's kind of like for a press conference. It's like it felt like he was like, "What do y'all want me to say?"
It was like my hands are up.
It's feeling. Like, "What do y'all want me to say here?" Like, we didn't play well.
I thought it was the same thing after Saturday of like, do you want me to call out all the deficiencies, or do you want me to just tell you we got to coach him better to what our roster is?
Exactly.
I'm sure with some of these answers we'll get into what he said.
Yeah, so we have a lot of questions. Obviously, for those who want to send questions, I post on Sunday nights asking for mailbag questions, have them until we record the podcast. So $1 for the first year of the Bengal Tiger podcast if you're not already subscribed, but these are subscriber-only questions. So we can get right into them. I don't know which one you want to start with.
Okay, I can be on read duty. Captain Planet 246, why does the offense suck so badly? I'm sure we'll answer offensive questions in a variety of ways moving forward, and there'd be a lot of answers. I'll start with the O-line. 5
out of 6. 5. It's going to be 6 different combinations in 7 games this coming.
I think I would start there.
Yeah.
I don't think it was an experienced unit to start with, and I don't think it was patchworked in a way between true freshmen and transfers, and they had to teach a center how to snap in the offseason. And that's not Charles Turner's fault. There was no center on the roster who was returning with any sort of experience at the position. So I would start with O-line.
I agree. I think that's where it starts, and then it kind of just eroding everywhere else. There's no tight end depth. The receivers haven't been as good. Running back depth is shot. So a lot you could talk about there.
Mr. Virgo, is the team better or worse at this point than you expected? They're exactly what I thought they would be before the season, but I got into a little bit of fool's gold, I think, with the 4-1 start.
Yeah, me too. I had them at my bold take on the season was they were going to start 5-0, which I
had
was
4-1.
Close. We were close in that, even though they didn't deserve to win the Florida State game. They were close in that game. So I thought it was going to be 5-0, and then it was just going to all go away in the second half of the season. I still think the second half is going to be tough, but yeah, 4-2, 5-1 is about what I expected. So I mean, losing to Tennessee the way they did isn't great, but it's not the end of the world. I think that's my main takeaway.
I expected them to be about where they are.
Yeah, I agree.
Tiger Ranch, he's got a few here. We're gonna really roll right through there.
I should limit it to one per.
Tiger Ranch is a long-time member. He can ask a few.
Okay.
What do you expect will change, if anything, with our offense, or is this it for the season? So I asked Kelly today, and he had already been kind of barraged with this question a little bit in different ways, but I was curious, like in season, is that if you're just masking deficiencies or trying to play to strengths, whatever it is, do you then go change things is it the personnel that stays on the field? Is it play calling? Is it the actual scheme that needs adjusting? And he had sort of a variety of, I need to actually, we're recording this right after he talked, and he probably talked for 30 minutes about different ways they had to coach him better, do it. But one thing he did say was they're about to shrink the playbook in a way and he also talked a lot about players retaining knowledge. And that was a real in-season self-evaluation that he felt like at the midway point had to happen, because he was like, are these guys... He's like, the answer can't just be that guy doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, maybe if he's asking coaches what's happening there, and a coach is like,
well,
the guy's just doing it the wrong way. Okay, are we teaching it wrong? Do they need to be on a whiteboard more than they need to be in film? Do they need to be on the practice field more than they need to be in a walkthrough? And he was like, I think that's kind of where we're at individually with.
And that's what happens when you get a bunch of players that you 100%. Obviously didn't coach before, but then even them coming into with new coaches and new teammates. So players don't know how to learn, and this is every.
I'll do a monologue at the end, and I'll touch on exactly what you're saying. Okay. How do you feel about play calling? Seems uneventful and stale, uneventful.
I think those are good words, for the most part. I mean, I never thought.
I'm not sure how exotic they can really even be.
It's true. It's true. It's
Like,
so much of this is married together. I feel like where it's like Denbrock.
they make good. There's good play calls in there. It just doesn't get executed, so we forget about it. Move on to the next play.
Yeah, I mean, I watched Cincinnati's game against Notre Dame before the Tennessee game, and from last year, obviously, when Denbrock was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee or Cincinnati, and I was like, this doesn't look much at all like what LSU's running right now. So I was like, okay, you have Desmond Ridder at quarterback last year. You know, you have a veteran team. It's just a different circumstance. So
Having to dumb it down a good bit. Maybe not dumb it down, but well, they're about to shorten it up is certainly how it sounded. Can you provide the latest health info on Will Campbell and Dellinger? This is obviously a pretty big topic here. Will Campbell, as we were recording this on Monday afternoon, it sounds like he was about to be released from the hospital, which an EMS came. Matty B, you talked to Josh Williams, the running back, and he said it was like,
he just dropped.
it kind of it shook everyone up. Kelly described it as an episode. It sounds like passed out, maybe at his seizure, like not as I don't know, I don't know, but Josh Williams said it was scary, and Kelly said, look, the ambulance had to come out on the field, they had to take him out, and he's like, it really shook everybody up.
Yeah.
And that was at walkthrough on Friday. Now it's Monday afternoon. He's getting out, and the fact that Kelly said that all of his tests came back clean, he said was great news. He said, now if you're worried about now football-wise, he said they had to have another hurdle to get through there, and then it'll just probably be monitoring him. I would guess that means pretty doubtful for this weekend, just because you're like, the guy's getting out of the hospital after 4 days, and
I don't know how.
And we don't really know what's going on with him, and it's kind of day to day. So
I don't know how to approach his status for Saturday's game.
And when it was talking about who will be the starting line, Kelly almost said like, I want to move Bradford back inside because he's a better guard than tackle, but I just don't know what our availability is yet. So, and I think he meant by Campbell. Dellinger, grade 2 MCL sprain, out this week against Florida, out next week against Ole Miss. Then he gets a bye week to rest up, and then Kelly said he should be good after that. So that would be the Bama game in early November. That's a big loss. Can Polian correct the special teams woes? Is he on the proverbial hot seat? I'm not hot seating anybody 6 games in. And certainly, like, I completely agree, like, that Polian can't catch the ball for the punt return or the kickoff. Like, if they're out kicking the coverage on a certain thing and they bust one, like, that's not totally on him. But there are
the punt return is more on him than the
100%.
Than the
well, those yes,
drop.
100%.
Like the best drop.
But I would say that his unit is on the biggest hot seat of anyone on the team.
Yeah. I mean,
they are by far the most.
The thing is, he's also the recruiting coordinator, so it's not like he's only the special teams.
Well, and here's the thing: someone was like, special teams so inconsistent. I would completely disagree. I would say they're the most consistent unit on the team. Consistently bad is the issue.
Yes.
Like there are no bright spots that we've seen yet.
Yeah.
So I would say that the hot seat goes onto that position for sure, and he's in charge of it. So I don't know. We'll see. It's only halfway through the season. Why can Keyshawn, Big True, a.k.a. Big True, why can Keyshawn no longer get separation from average DBs? Are we to the point where we're buying into he might just not be the same after he had a pretty bad injury that ended his year?
Two moments before the season stick out to me. The first one was when we talked to Keyshawn before the season. He was still, he said that he was still hesitant about exploding off of his foot, and he was still, getting back into it. And this was like a week or two before the first game.
Right.
And so if you're still feeling that way beforehand, we've heard, from athletes at the professional level, at college level, where you come back from an injury and it takes you a year or so to get that full trust back in that foot or wherever the injury is. So I think that's definitely part of it. And then the second thing was, we watched the very first practice, and Keyshawn had a couple drops there, and you could tell he was still not 100% confident. I think it's a confidence thing at this point, but yeah, it's been a little concerning. I still think he's going to get drafted. I think he'll be fine, but I think this year is a product of him not being 100% on that ankle. And even if he is 100% physically, mentally, he hasn't overcome that hurdle yet, which we see a lot in sports.
The fact that he just eclipsed 100 yards after 5 games played is concerning.
Yes.
So,
and then you have the whole offensive philosophy, and Daniel's not throwing in, and it just stacks on top of each other.
I think that's a bigger discussion.
Yes.
Cairo Tiger said, with no signing class scholarship cap, what size class do you think we bring in? Adding transfer portal additions plus high school recruits together, I could see it landing around 32. I think it'll be more than that. Curious, is there a world where they take more? I do. I think that they'll probably sign 25 or 6 high school kids maybe more, and go then above 4 or 5 in transfers. So
what do they?
I think they want I don't think they have to have, and they want the high school class to be a whole lot bigger than the transfer class. Like you don't want to continue to patchwork it.
What are they at right now? 20, 21?
22? 21 or 22.
In the class. So, yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of names.
10 more, there's the high school kids, and then you'll find out how many transfers,
And there's a lot of names you and Billy have talked about that, could be late additions to the class that can come in.
And what Cairo is asking towards is now the current rule, it's always changing, is like you used to could only sign 25.
Yes.
Now you can sign as many as you want. You just have to stay under 85 when the season begins. Total scholarships. LSU's well under that.
Yes.
He asked again, seems to be a glaring problem with the offensive scheming. Do we realistically think adjustments will be made on that side of the ball? Do we just not have anyone on the staff that can scheme for games? Kansas is a good example of an offensive team that schemes week to week. Their offense doesn't look the same every game. I would say they have a lot of people on staff that can scheme for games. Like Kelly's been a head coach 30-something years.
Yeah.
Like Denbrock's called offense for a long time and successfully recently. And then Joe Sloan was calling offenses at Tech. So, yeah, they have a lot of guys. I think people are overlooking that they're not good.
Yeah, there are holes. There are significant holes.
And when your offensive line's by far the worst part, and you can't run the football.
They can't run the ball.
And you're saying, oh, well, Jaden, I like him. He does some things, but he's not patient enough, or he doesn't have enough time to look downfield and go through all his reads. That's another thing. It's like people pretend like, well, I want Jaden to get through read 3 and 4. It's like, dude, I watch NFL on Sunday, and there aren't guys getting through their third and fourth read, especially when you have no time and that's in your head.
People, and I've thought...
This isn't towards Cairo. I'm just talking out loud.
I was on the phone with my dad, and I was like, I don't think people understand how hard it is to find a good quarterback that checks off all these boxes here. Like
Joe Burrow, and that's
if you want Joe Burrow, it's like okay, but that's LSU is hoping to get there with in future classes recruit top end quarterbacks, but it's not easy to play quarterback at any level, but especially in the SEC.
Can Jaden be better? Yes, of course. I just don't think they're any good up front. So I think that everything from there looks really bad. Like didn't start to
and then it's always hard for me to be like, this is the exact problem with the offensive scheme because I'm not a coach and I'm not smarter than Mike Denbrock.
And I saw MSP on the board went through and watched what would have been the scripted plays. It was like the first few series, and it was like really good play calling that was executed so poor. Like there were drops, or Jaden didn't pull the trigger, or the O-line just got blown up, and there was nothing to like. Immediately the play is scrapped. So I think they're fine there. I think they've got some very experienced guys in that offensive room, coaching wise. They can figure that out. Yeah. They get paid a lot of money too. Ernie Ball 5. Perkins, why did he hardly play? What'd Kelly say? They didn't want to move him positions.
Yeah, Kelly said they were basically in a nickel the whole time, and they kept Penn and Baskerville in at those 2 linebacker spots. So obviously you have 5 defensive backs. They kept Ojolari and Gay on the field the whole time at defensive ends. And I don't think they want Perkins to be like the future, like a defensive end, like a jack position type guy. I think they want him to be more of a linebacker at some point in his career. But right now he's like in that tweener position. Well,
and Kelly said, if he's in the tweener spot, though, they want to be all in on one area, and that's, hey, let's simplify him. Let's put him on the outside. Yes. Let's let him rush the passer, do all these things that make him disruptive. But as you said, in this game, a lot of nickel. That player comes off the field essentially. So it doesn't sound like anything nefarious was going on there. They overlooked him.
And I mean, I still think there are ways you have to get him on the field.
No doubt.
But
that's the explanation.
For him to play, what did he play, 8, 9, something like that?
That's the explanation,
snaps?
Though.
Yeah, I still think you got to get him on the field a bit more than that.
Well, Jay Ward, why was he on the sidelines for a few third downs? And I might have been tired.
Personnel, fatigue, personnel, packages, different. Whatever the offense was running, they changed personnel a lot. And Sage Ryan played a good amount. Mm-hmm. They threw him out there, so.
Nola Fan 33. Back during camp, maybe even prior to camp, Kelly made a comment along the lines: the offense doesn't change depending on which quarterback's in the game. He
did.
How do you perceive that question now versus how you originally made it?
I think he meant that.
I do too.
I don't think this offense changes significantly with Nussmeier. Now, maybe the decision making of the quarterback position changes in a way, but also so does the quarterback run game. So does a lot of aspects.
I'm just not sure I want it.
The actual philosophy of Denbrock and Kelly was always going to be set in stone here. It's just how it was executed. It was how Daniels played off of it, and there's a lot of factors in that.
I don't know. I'm sure someone's going to ask about the whole Nuss thing. I think behind this O-line, Nuss would be getting sacked and hit.
Or he would just be throwing it up.
Or he's then risking it and throwing it up. Like
y'all know I'm the Nuss bus
dude,
driver.
I love Nuss.
But
Big Nuss fan, but I'm just saying the reality of this current team.
Can't,
I think the veteran.
Yeah, I can't say that Nussmeier at this moment would be the answer to many, if any, problems of this offense. Personally,
no, they've got a lot of things to fix before they get to quarterback being the sole issue figured out. And I'm not even in the camp that just play him for the future thing. Like,
no,
you don't want every Saturday to look like Tennessee did. Either.
It's so overstated to play young quarterbacks for experience, in my opinion, at times.
Is Ollie Gay's play good enough to just? This is from Zigo Shea. Playing him over Savion Jones at this point. I mean,
we got this question last time too.
Yeah,
I
don't even know if Savion played this much.
I don't think Savion
weekend.
didn't play much at all this past.
I think they like how Ollie holds up a lot more in the run game than Savion, and that's out of Savion's mouth. Savion had said,
"Yes,
I'm in year 2. I feel a lot more confident." He said this a couple weeks ago, but he was like, "I can't hold up against the run at this point to be an every down player."
Yeah.
So
strictly a pass rusher, Savion is, and Ollie Gay. While I don't think he's been good against as a pass rusher this year, I think he's been fine against the run, or at least is much better against the run than Savion is at this point.
Captain Planet 246. Communication seems to still be a big issue in the secondary. As soon as he had guys wide open, was it really just communication issues? Is it talent deficiency or both? I think talent deficiency is always going to play into some role here if you're comparing it to what you want the LSU roster to look like. Well, there was the Hendon Hooker. The deep ball.
Deep ball was
a great throw.
And I
he
thought,
had him beat by a step
I
or
thought
two.
Bernard Converse got beat by a step, and then there was
to end the half, there was like three times where they were wide open. He maybe missed one or two.
And I thought I thought the defense was playing too soft. The safeties were freaking 30.
Yeah, and they were just running underneath them.
They just ran underneath them. So, I mean, I'm sure.
I think their communications gets like. It's kind of like a week-to-week thing. Like, it seemed like it got better, and then Kelly actually thought it got worse, and then he thought it got better.
Well, it's hard against that Tennessee offense.
I also thinking, before the season, Kelly circled Major Burns as the key to the communication, and Major Burns is hurt. So,
and then they've shuffled in Brooks back there and Fuchsias back there. It's not easy.
Ward was playing safety.
Ward was back there. And then you have to play Tennessee, and Tennessee's gonna light up a secondary like that.
Bourbon, so I think it could be a few things. Bourbon and Cheerios. Seems like the majority of fans are focused on quarterback, play calling, wide receivers. Everything on offense starts with the O-line. No doubt, I agree.
Oh, this is long. This is long.
If you can't get a push, can't run, you can't take deep shots, and you can't call a game plan that's diverse and keeps the defense guessing, I agree with all that. We're seeing how LSU's backups on the O-line just aren't SC material, and it's beyond shocking to see the drop-off from a true freshman LT to the junior who stepped in front of him. As Kelly said today, they don't want to play Bradford at guard.
No,
but Bradford
they don't want to play Bradford at tackle. Yeah.
But that's their best option at this point to keep Bradford on the field. So they'd rather him be. Kelly feels like you lose. First off, I don't think Bradford's athletic enough to play tackle. But he said you lose all the physicality of what you get in Bradford when you move him out there.
That's the point of Bradford.
Yeah. No. So no limit on the 23 class. Are there any uncommitted targets LSU has a chance with on the O-line? Do they try to take another large portal group, combination approach? I think they've done a good line setting the foundation. I think they should go get DJ Chester, who's still out there uncommitted. That could be a 4-man, O-line class. Maybe you add another, and that looks very solid. Then you see what's up in the portal. Like Tyler Steen was someone in the portal they went after hard, and he's killing it for Bama right now out of Vandy. He was player of the week a week ago.
They need a center.
It's like, and Miles Frazier was ranked as one of the best O-linemen.
Ohio State was on
PFF, him. Everybody was on
him.
And
I think Frazier's been good to this point.
Okay, so then if you can go grab one guy that can start, then
play center.
Then you'll be good. I think they just need to develop a lot of these guys they have and just try to make it work. You really need Emory Jones and Will Campbell to stay healthy. And Dellinger, those three you need to just have healthy at all times.
That's the core.
And then you'll figure it out from there.
I think we answered.
Alignment, LSU alignment. Is this team bad or just young with potential? That's a great question.
Well,
if they're young, how young?
I don't know if they're young. Well, they have young players.
I think there are young
but
players
they also
with
have how many 20 plus,
transfers that are old and
that are, so I mean, I don't
think they're bad. I just think I have a problem with, and I said I would do a little monologue at the end. I'll mix it in here. I don't think they're a team right now. And I don't think you can be that much of a cohesive team when you take more transfers than anyone. You had a roster of 39 players. You worked in a new offense, defense, and special teams coordinator. You worked in a new coach at every position minus O-line. You've got a new head coach. You've got a new strength coach. Every single thing about the program, like, you cannot put all that in a blender and just be like, spit out consistency for me every weekend now. It's like that doesn't happen. And there are guys on this team that were playing at other colleges at a lower level than this for a reason.
Yeah.
They're not bad football players, but they're just not the standard LSU's used to.
Every single
I think
coach,
it's a combo. I don't think they're a great roster, but I do think they have some guys with potential.
Yeah, and every single coach says the transfer portal is not what you want to build your foundation on. So
Absolutely
they
not.
haven't even started their foundation.
LSU Lawyer 24. Any chance Kelly keeps Denbrock but tells him to adjust scheme, bring in an analyst who can revamp the offense and a more modern philosophy?
I think there's
they have a ton of analysts, so that shouldn't be an issue there.
I mean, there'll be changes, obviously, with any offseason as far as...
Here's what I probably think is one of the biggest things. I'd love to run these numbers. With what Denbrock and Kelly are probably used to, certainly Kelly, let's say at Notre Dame, his NFL guys on offense were playing O-line.
Yes.
They were playing tight end. LSU's NFL guys on offense are playing wide receiver. They're playing running back. Yeah, that's a complete philosophical switch, I think, almost that has to happen there. If you want to, like, really build an offense, or not build one, but, like, have an offense that is suited to what you're going to be recruiting towards, you never have to leave Louisiana to get NFL running backs and NFL receivers.
And the way Joe Sloan's recruiting quarterbacks.
Yes, right. You would have to think that means you... I thought Insmere did such a great job of that, and he never gets any credit for anything really, but... It was spread out. It was, I mean, their very first game with him as interim OC, they broke the school's total offense record. They had like almost 700 yards of offense against Missouri that day. He had, a game with Keyshawn where it was raining against Ole Miss, and they were pretty much like, dude, we're just going to ride our best player, and he broke the single game record.
Like times.
They found ways always to get receivers the ball, to at least get the running game started, going, to find some balance.
Yeah. So
I think it's back to what I said. And I don't expect Denbrock and Kelly to come in here and immediately be like, oh, let's change everything we've done forever. Because as Kelly said, we're still figuring out what this roster actually is. Yes. And when you take away starting alignment, you start to shrink the playbook even more, and it becomes more difficult. I think long term, yes, the offseason will do a lot of self-scouting there and see how you get better. Mike Stacklasa, do we beat Arkansas or are we 6 in the West? Are we favored in any game going forward but UAB? They could be favored in the Ole Miss game, especially if they win this weekend. At home, that could be a field goal type game.
Arkansas hasn't looked as good.
No.
But that's a road game. I think it's funny how quickly we forget that this team beat Mississippi State. And that Mississippi State's a good team, and they're 2-1 in conference at this point. So, in theory, I think if you win 1 or 2 more games... I don't know how Arkansas finishes out the year. KJ Jefferson.
Do I think LSU? I'll put it this way: do I think LSU's a great team, even a very good team, a good team? No, not really. But I think that if Kelly's right, they'll look better in November than they did September. Some people are trying to argue that they don't look any better right now than they did week 1.
I think they do.
I don't know where we fall on that. That's a whole different argument. But I do think you can look at last year. With a roster that was depleting in front of their eyes, where Max Johnson got to throw it to the end zone to try to beat Bama with no time left. Wild things can happen.
It's hard to predict wins. It's hard to predict wins in this SEC. In the SEC, that's one thing I've learned is early on is, I mean, they could beat Ole Miss, they could beat Arkansas. I think they definitely could beat A&M. I mean, these are all going to be games where it's like a 3-point spread. Florida is a 2.5-point spread right now. All these games LSU could win. We just have to see them play like they did against Mississippi State and not how they did against Tennessee.
All right, we'll try to move quicker for everyone out there. Captain Planet again. Why are we not trying another quarterback? Does Kelly just not trust us? No, I would say probably not. And I think Kelly thinks Daniels gives them the best chance to win.
100%.
And there's no leaking out on Tiger droppings or anything about Nuss crushes practice and they just refuse to play him. I've talked to a lot of people in the building, and no one once this year's ever brought up if they would just put in Nuss.
Yeah,
that tells me all I need to know.
And
that's not a knock on Nuss. That's just it's very clear to everyone that gets to watch nonstop that they're going with the best option.
I agree. Yeah, that's it.
Coach K7, what is Fuchsias' role moving forward? Notice Converse plays a lot of safety with Brooks against Tennessee.
He did. He did.
Thoughts?
He
I
played
thought
some
Joe
safety.
would be playing a lot more than he did.
It's so weird. I have to go back. I watched the 30-minute highlights last night, like at 12 o'clock, because I have nothing else to do on a Sunday night. But yeah, Converse did play a good amount of safety there. I think they like him at safety at times, especially whenever like Tennessee's playmakers were in like those one-on-one situations. I think they liked Gardner.
It's like a corner type player out there.
Yeah, it's tough because I think Converse can do it, but at the same time, I want to see Fuchsias because Fuchsias is such a playmaker at that spot.
Was glad to see Tolan get some. This is still Coach K. Glad to see Tolan got some valuable PT. Do y'all think we'll get to see more of the young secondary players on the field? Majority of our secondary transfers and out of eligibility. I think they want to just play the best guys right now.
Yeah,
so they're going to play the transfers. So like the LaTerrence Welsh's and
Jalen Davis
Robinsons of the world, I don't think are going to play much this year, if at all.
I know. Anytime something.
And the only two returning corners, McGee and Jones, aren't playing at all this year.
Yeah, they're out. They're gone.
So.
I know a lot of fans want whenever something goes wrong to be like, oh, just play all the young players and build for the future. It's like they're 4-2, 2-1. They're not going to just blow it up at this point.
Right.
Even if they lose the next 2 games and they're 4-4 and 2-3, they're still not going to blow it up. They got Bama that next week, so it's like they're going to play the best players.
Thanks for all y'all do. Shout out Coach K. Appreciate that. Russell DeBow, what's the hold up on offering under the radar Louisiana guys? Backs and Broussard, you don't want to burn bridges when you offer and pull it, but they seem worthy of a shot, especially given there's no signing class cap. I think Backs is someone they will make a move on. Broussard's interesting because they already have 4 receivers. Backs is a linebacker at Endicott, committed to TCU, who typically makes very solid evals. Harvey Broussard, I think with 4 receivers already committed, it's just kind of a, hey, let's keep pushing the evaluation through, wait it out and see where the board looks. How involved are Sloan, Davis, Hankton in building the scheme? I don't know the answer to that.
We are not in the room.
I imagine not much, since this doesn't really look like what I remember of any Tech's offenses, but I'm wondering their input just beyond coaching out their positions. I'm sure everyone gets input, but at the end of the day, it's going to be Kelly and Denbrock's offense. They're the head coach and the offensive coordinator, so it should be.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
I'm not beefing over that.
No. It should not,
I'm sure they take... Look, I've met Denbrock multiple times. I've seen him not in his work capacity. Like, he's a great... Everyone loves him. It's like, I'm very positive he's the type that is receptive to feedback. Like,
yes.
I do not... Everywhere he's worked, everyone that worked with him said he was great. Yes. So, I wouldn't think that anybody's butting those guys out of the room. At what point does Kelly step in? This is from JD the Tiger. For Denbrock, and tell him I'm calling the plays, or tell him what schemes to run, what kind of plays to call, etc. I feel as a head coach, you have to know when to step in for a coordinator, give more hands-on direction. Feels like that time is now. And we'll never know how much that's actually going on, but I think
they will know.
I think that their 2 philosophies are pretty
similar,
in sync.
Yes.
Like, I think that Kelly and Denbrock are on the same page.
I don't know if you watch Notre Dame the past 4 years and you watch Cincinnati the past 4 years, I don't know if I'm taking away much of a difference between those 2 offenses.
And you did a lot of looking at those 2 over it.
Yeah.
So they're similar. I think it's why you hired him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why. You want to build a foundation. It's a new program, new team. You're like, all right, let's get a guy that knows what I want. I know what he wants, and they go from there.
Iowa City Tiger fan. What is Kelly learning about his offensive style versus SEC defenses? Is he open to make changes? This is a great question. I think he has to be open to make changes.
Yes.
And I think that's one thing that you don't like. He's learning his roster, but he's going to the swamp for the first time. Like, you're having to understand so many elements, and then the simple speed. Like, you could have played SEC teams before, but you don't know the toll that takes on your team week after week. And then not even physically, but mentally, like, you just got blown out 40-13 by Tennessee, but you better get up because you go to Florida now. And then when you get back, you're going to play Ole Miss at home. And then you get a bye, but great, you're coming out of a bye and playing Bama. Like, I think you're learning about that. I think he's learning about so much this year. But I also think he's a really smart guy. So I think he's able to kind of process a lot more than beyond what their win-loss and week-to-week results are. I think he's doing a lot of in his head of, these are the adjustments I've got to start making when we get to the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add to that. I think from an offensive style standpoint, I think Denbrock will continue to be the offensive coordinator, if nothing else, because you want consistency and you want to not blow up a coaching staff after 1 year, especially after your first year. But I think they'll make changes, but I think a lot of this year is just about learning.
No doubt. LWT being that Will Rogers, who's State's quarterback, was the only quarterback that graded out better than Jaden this past weekend. Is it fair to say he's actually not the problem? That the problem's much deeper than him? Well, the problem's definitely much deeper than him. The problem starts up front, like it always does in football,
Yes.
especially in the SEC with the offensive line. I actually think that if we're just looking back at, like, everyone knows what Jaden is right now. So then if you're saying, okay, well, this next game, I want him to be more aggressive throwing to guys when they're coming out of their breaks or, timing wise. And let's see, what was the other thing last week that everybody talked about? Quit dumping it off to Mason Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Mason Taylor had the least amount of targets of anyone that played, and I thought he was a lot more aggressive throwing the football.
He was very aggressive. I mean,
So,
some of those throws, you look back on them, you're like, okay, those are legitimately good throws that in tight windows that he was not even trying before. So, we talked about this.
Yeah,
in the last
problems
podcast.
are deeper than that because he did two things they really needed to do, and they scored 13 points.
Yeah,
so,
it's like,
and they ran the ball for 12 yards.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be someone who keeps moving the goalpost when you want Jaden to do this, he does that, and then you're like, okay, well, he didn't do this. Like, you can keep moving it as much as you want. The offense just as a whole is not good at this point.
RHCP 93. Is there any chance, even small, that Denbrock might not be the OC next year? I would think that you prefer continuity over anything, and I think with a guy as experienced as Denbrock, you would think that you could kind of shift a little bit of your philosophy to match what you've got and not have to wholesale change things.
Yeah.
NW Tiger, our run game totally lacks any creativity. We have a quarterback that's very slow process for info, won't throw deep or throw receivers open. We put 1 to 2 tight ends on the field every play to block, which they can't do.
Session.
Kelly said that they definitely cannot. He's like, the tight ends are not where they need to be blocked.
And I've said that since week 1. I said I don't really
and we
get
sit
that
our most
point.
talented group of receivers. When Daniels does start, eventually he's either late or behind the receivers. I don't think all this is completely true.
This is a venting session.
Yeah, this staff won't even give Nuss reps in a blowout. I think if you are talking about Tennessee, they did move the ball in the first half.
They moved the ball.
Made bad decisions when they got down there of not taking points, going for it on these fourth down. Like, it was, they weren't doing themselves any favors a lot of the time.
Yeah. There's not a question here.
That's Les Miles.
There's not a question
okay.
here.
This is outside of dramatic changes from our coaches. This is going to get very ugly. Sure. I think we already knew it was going to be ugly in the sense that they have a wholesale change to everything. Kelly said that today. There's going to be better Saturdays, and there's going to be Saturdays that feel like this did. And that's just the reality of where we're at right now. And he said that because we're only just starting to build the foundation. And what do you say today? Guys are having to learn habits right now.
Go says, what is the benefit of playing Daniels at this point? There's no long-term benefit. We need Walker to be the starter next year. We also need to see what Nuss has if it's going to be a legitimate quarterback battle next year. I think Miles Burnett is our best option, but BK knew his O-line gets him killed. The reason of playing Daniels this year is because he's the best quarterback this year. That's bottom line. That's it.
And with a bad O-line, you want
a bad offensive line.
You don't want one of those other kids to die
He
out there
beat
on the
out,
field,
and I don't know where this is coming from that they don't know what Nuss has. Like,
well,
they
that's what I
seen him in
said. Well,
practice.
they
saw him in spring.
I'm not
They
picking
saw him
on
in summer. They
Go
saw him
Law
in
here at
fall.
all. But this is a more generic thing. When people say we need Walker as a starter next year, I'm not sure you do. We also need to, and I'm not saying that's going to be Daniels. I'm just saying, like, Walker's about to be a redshirt freshman next year. He's also 6 foot and needs to continue to develop in certain areas. Like, this isn't STM anymore, and he knows that and has a very good head about that. And I think that's fine. Like, don't put there's so much, and now it's Nuss too. But then I want to quickly answer what you said. We all need to see what Nuss has if there's going to be legit.
We need to see it.
We don't need to see anything. The coaches every day get to watch them. They know exactly what kind of quarterback battle they're going to have. Yeah. So I'm good on
we don't need to see anything as long as he's practicing, and then the coaches know how good he is. So
yeah, they'll be fine. As he said, BK probably knew our O-line would get Brennan killed. Brennan would have gotten hurt again had he been on this team. No doubt about it. Go Tigers 8. Understand the O-line situation, but does Denbrock have a history of only having one run play in the book inside zone? So everyone's banging on him right now because they're just running inside zone nonstop. Is Cincinnati's offense as blamed in the run game as this?
No, and I don't think this run game is that. Obviously, they have more than one run plays, but if people want to be,
they did run a lot of inside zone.
Yeah, they did. But if we want to hyperbolize the offense and just reduce it down to that, then I guess so. But they had a lot of problems. They couldn't block them for anything. So I don't know what to say. No, that's not a question.
LSU Illuminati just wanted to ask about offensive scheme philosophy and utilizing space. For example, like we saw Tennessee Saturday, Tennessee runs the Bryles offense. Like you watch that with Ole Miss all the time too. Like
you also have to have personnel to run that offense.
Yeah. Holy Bull, Perkins playing time. We answered that one. Timetable on Campbell. We answered that one. Why is tackling so poor? That's really baffling to me. Like they tackle well in some games and they're just really bad in others.
The space, I watched the Tennessee game again, and it's just like they did struggle to tackle, but it was mostly on the boundary. And even I thought Penn missed a couple tackles. Like, yeah, as a team, it was definitely probably their worst tackling game since Florida State. So that was disheartening.
Dellinger timetable.
I don't know why it's tackling so poor. Like if you're asking me, from
like week to week,
from a coaching perspective, why they can't tackle, I don't know. They just didn't hop up, get to the floor.
Jimmy Chill, is our O-line room devoid of talent after years of O, or is Brad Davis not doing a good job of coaching? I think it's devoid of talent. We all had the offseason to work out a top 5, and then it took us several games to get there. Well, there were injuries thrown into that. And Cam Wire did not play well at all out of the gates, and then you had to switch. Dellinger at center seemed like a bad idea to start. I think they had to just get as many guys ready at center as they could.
I think they just didn't want to play Turner at center to start the year. I thought they were like, okay, if Dellinger can process all this and he can snap the ball, then we have a center and we can build out around that. It's like we have guys like Tremont Shorts who can fill in at times, Anthony Bradford could fill in, and you go from there. But obviously that's tough. They should have maybe put him there earlier, but they did it like a week into the fall camp, so I don't know.
Famous Amos of 7-5 are reasonable expectations for BK's first year. What's reasonable if not expected in years 2 and 3? I would say when you need to win a game, at least one more game every season to be considered improving. Like they went 6-6 last year, so 7 wins would be improving. The next year you get to 8 and 9 wins. The next year you need to be competing for the West, like double-digit wins. And
in my preseason predictions, I put 8 and 4, but in the whole thing I was like, yeah, I was this close to putting 7-5. I probably would have put 7-5. So I think year 3 is so far beyond my comprehension at this point of what this team and roster will look like.
We don't know what the roster will look like.
We don't even know what it'll look like next year. No. But from a year 2 perspective, I think if they, like you said, 8 and 4, 9 and 3.
I actually think the roster was in such shambles that next year is going to be they're not going to be playing clean football next year. They're still not going to have the guys. And I firmly believe that. Like that they'll win more games next year. It just won't be – they'll still be rough days, tough times ahead. That's just where they were as a program.
Yes.
People are forgetting they got housed by Kansas State in a bowl game. For real. It was bad. It was ugly. It was like 50-0.
It was bad.
Cordell, what's up with Perk playing less than 10 snaps? We talked about that. They had already moved him from middle backer to edge rusher back to they didn't want to move him back to middle backer just for one game. So he did say he's going to play a lot this weekend at Florida.
Yes, and I see that.
2 more. Coachella, while I agree Seven's been underwhelming, Butte, this year on all accounts, he seems to lack explosiveness or quickness from last year, even with the ball in his hands. Have you heard anything on you guys not floating back from injury? Definitely not excusing his play, but just curious if you've heard anything about the injury in him. We talked about that a bit. I think that there has to be something with that in there. And whether that was, as you noted, like whether that was like getting back to 100% physically and now getting back to 100% confidence-wise, like he's still on that journey for me.
I agree. Yeah,
this is not the Butte we know.
This is not. No. Even the tough catches, he's just not making.
Jimmy Chill, Maddie, not really for the mailbag, some kind of comparison you could do between the scheme Denbrock is forcing and the more modern college game that might actually fit our players. It might be an impossible task, but I'm asking you to be a better SC than Denbrock. Matt, you're like 20-something years old. Denbrock's been doing it for 20-something years. I don't think you're going to be able to accomplish
He's been doing this longer than I've been alive.
It seems like the offensive coaches like Kiffin and Sark are doing laps on Denbrock. Maybe I'm wrong. I actually think Kiffin and Sark should not be put in the same sentence. Sark's a lot better play caller than I think.
Sark at Bama was unfair. Sark at Texas right now is looking very, very
and I think that Kiffin has had Levy with him multiple times now at FAU and Ole Miss that brought you the UT offense, the old Baylor Bryles offense. So
It takes
Now,
all I'll say is it takes a lot from personnel to coaching to if you do want to run these offenses, it is a lot more boom or bust type things to me.
I think that too. I said I had a monologue at the end. Maybe this is a nice little end to it because I do think it's going to play like. I do think this will be an interesting long-term discussion, and I've already touched on it briefly already in the pod. Down here, you have way more athletes than they had up there. I feel like this is an offensive scheme. While it could, if he had all his pieces, they could be undefeated right now.
Yeah,
and
if they had NFL offensive.
You know, I don't. Yeah, right.
Ends,
like I don't know. Maybe they're running for 200 something a game. Like yeah, this is a route to go. I just think you see these offenses working on teams like LSU more often because teams like LSU recruit an area of the country,
yes.
Louisiana specifically, but East Texas, Mississippi, Florida. Georgia, parts of Florida where running backs and wide receivers grow on trees. Really athletic NFL ones. So I think if you want the offense to really click like they want it to, like they're going to have to go to the Midwest and get O-linemen like Louisiana will not give you Will Campbell and Emory Jones and Zalance Hurd every year.
Yeah,
it just does not happen. We went about 7 years before we got back to back-to-back years with guys like that. So you've got to go get those Midwestern O-linemen that you turned into NFL guys at Notre Dame. You've got to go get those, a lot of times, Midwest tight end guys that, are big enough to block and catch, which doesn't happen a ton in the South.
And they're reaching. I mean, you're watching them having to reach for Nicholas Harbor and guys like that for as far as tight ends go, and then guys that are already committed to other places at this moment. So that'll be interesting.
But I just think how they continue to evolve the philosophy to where. But again, I think it probably all starts with if they had a good O-line, things would be a lot easier.
Yes. Yeah, I mean they wouldn't have lost the Florida State game if they had a good offensive line, so they'd be 5-1 right now.
And look, 4-2
with the win over Mississippi State.
Well, and 4-2 is right on schedule for 7-5. I mean,
and that hits my over 6.5. So
I would say that right now they're on schedule.
Look, and you have the UAB game. You have the UAB game that we can obviously probably mark as a win, which would get them to 5, and then you just got to win 2 out of the group of games that I said were going to be like 3-point spreads. It's like Florida, Arkansas, A&M. Ole Miss, these are all going to be really tight spreads going into the game. We're going to be like, okay.
If you can split those and get to 7 wins,
split those, get to 7.
You're good. You hit the Vegas kind of expectation right on the head.
Pay me out. Cash it out. So,
all right.
There you go. A lot of questions.
We feel like Kelly after that presser. Now I know how he feels. I'm just like, dude, what do you want me to say, man?
Put my hands up.
The roster's just not there for me.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting asked to.
Again, here's one thing I wouldn't freak out if I'm LSU fans. Let's look it up right now.
Okay, go ahead. We got a computer, home monitor.
We're going to trust Wikipedia on this answer right here. Brian Kelly has been a head coach since 1991. He's done it at multiple divisions. He won national championships at a
literally every
lower
division.
Level, but literally every division.
Because you go
Grand Valley State in D2 up to D1 at Central Michigan, then really to a higher level of G5 in Cincinnati, to Notre Dame, to now his career coaching record. He's won 267 games, 98. I believe that is the second, 267 and 98 would be the second best win percentage of any head coach across, let's say, more than 100-something games. You can even get into the Dabos and them. Behind Saban. I think, you can Google that. Best win percentages, college football head coaches, current. See how good my SEO searching is.
See, this Ryan Day's been a coach for not long enough.
Kalen DeBoer is not long enough. Okay, let's. Top 10 winningest active coaches. Well, winningest, would that be? I don't think that'll give us. That'll just give us numbers of wins. Let's click on. This is called coacheshotseat.com.
I wish. This is not great podcasting, but as far as
wish y'all could see what we're watching here.
The visual goes is hilarious.
Yeah, see, they've got guys like Napier in here. Okay, 747 across that. So like guys who have had more than 100 wins in their career, head coaching career. Above that, above 747, are Dabo and Nick.
Yeah, and Dabo's done like half the games that Nick Kelly has. But
do they have a total game?
No. But you get the point.
279 and 60. So like 340 something games career for Saban.
Yeah.
380 something for Kelly,
Yeah.
and they're at 747 and 800 win percentages. Like, let me just give you this, because I'm making the point of why I trust Kelly right here.
Okay.
Guys who have been head coaches for longer than 20 years right now: Saban 27, Kelly 33, Gundy's about to hit 20 at 18.
Kyle Whittingham's at 19.
Mac Brown at 34.
Yeah. Craig Bowl.
Willie Fritz at Tulane's 27. Craig Bowl 20. So, yeah, but even if you get above 30 years as a head coach, it's really just like Mac Brown, Kelly.
Mac and Kelly. I would listen to them do a podcast.
Saban's at 27. So point being, like, you've got that win percentage. You've done it that long. Like, this is not your first rodeo. This is not the first time you've seen a bad roster. This is not the first time you faced these deficiencies. It's the first time you're having to do it in the SEC. First time you're having to do it with this roster. First time you're having to do it at LSU. But there's nothing about him being in that conversation with those coaches over that period of time that leads him to believe he can't figure it out.
Yep.
Full faith. If they had hired a
6 games,
and I love Billy Napier. Like, I'm a fan of Billy Napier. I love what's homeboy's name? Lincoln. Like, love Lincoln, love his offenses. Like, if they were sitting here on a rebuild at LSU, like, I wouldn't know how it's gone because I've never seen him do it before.
Yeah.
I've seen Kelly do it for 33 years. So, yeah. I have faith.
You're right. All right.
This is a great website. And then they just have a chair on fire right there as the... This is called...
I was gonna take the webcam and just turn it around and show the
coacheshotseat.com. You want to see this? Here you go.
Just a burning chair right there. Great site.
I don't know what gets you on the pictures, though. Those seem... Oh, okay. That's...
The winningest? Or...
I don't know. Saban's up 6.
Coaches update October.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're also putting in some coaches who've coached about, like, 50 football games in there.
Mike Elko's... Yeah, no. All right. There you have it. This is the fun doing it in person.
We're not even getting paid by coacheshotseat.com, but they're about to hit some traffic today.
Some free traffic. Speaking of traffic, we appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the YouTube and is watching the videos. So continue to leave a like, share, comment.
A lot of comments on the last one. A lot of Tennessee fans.
Yeah,
they were nice. They said the podcast was really good.
Very nice.
I wish our LSU fans loved us that much. Tennessee fans were loving it. Just nice people.
Shout out to Tennessee fans in the comments. Awesome. And thanks to everybody who sent in their questions. As always, Sunday night, I'll be posting those and going from there. So, yeah, that's all we got. For Shea Dixon, I'm Matthew Brune. We thank y'all for joining, and we will talk to y'all later.